Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Counselor Education Application Information Session for the 2023 admission cycle. We will give it probably 1 more minute for everyone to come in and get connected. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and get started now. There we go. So again, welcome to the Counselor Education Application Information Session for the fall 2023 admission cycle. My name is Susanna, and I am one of the ambassadors specializing in rehabilitation, and I will walk us through some of the presentation today. And so for those new people coming in, welcome. Okay, so on behalf of the Counselor Education Program faculty and ambassadors, welcome to our information night for prospective students. We're very excited to meet with you and share some highlights about our program and explain the application and admission process. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a quick check-in. Go ahead and type in the chat how everyone's feeling today. Are we excited, nervous, happy? Go ahead and type what you're feeling. I'm seeing a lot of excited and very excited. Okay, some people are tired. Well, thank you for being here either way. Whoa. A little bit of both, okay. Well, we're excited to have you too, so welcome. Okay, so we begin tonight by acknowledging that the land which Sac State gathers in is the traditional territory of the Nisenan, Maidu, Miwok, Paiute, Washoe, Yokuts, Patwin, and Concow people. Though we're not meeting in person at Sac State, it's important to acknowledge that this land remains the shared space among the First Nations. Colonialism is an ongoing process, and we need to build our mindfulness of our present participation. So we will go ahead and introduce ourselves. So again, my name is Susanna or Susana, and I am the ambassador for the clinical or for the rehabilitation specialization. I'll pass it to Lupita.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lupita Mendez. I'm one of the student ambassadors for the career specialization. Sorry, I forgot to pass it. I will pass it to Zach.
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Zach Starr. I am the student ambassador representing the school specialization, and I'm very pleased to be here with y'all tonight. And take it away, Chris.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Lin. I'm ambassador for MCFC, and I'm glad to meet you all today. And in the room, we also have Dr. Bida Rivers and Dr. Anthony Rivers.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Rivas. I am the program coordinator for MS Counseling, and I'm one of the faculty in MS Counseling that specializes in marriage, couple, and family counseling. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Anthony Rivas. I am a coordinator here in the MS Counseling program, and I am also a faculty advisor for the rehabilitation concentration in the MS Counseling program.
Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So just some presentation housekeeping rules. So this presentation is recorded. Please keep your microphones muted. That way we don't have noise. I'm sorry, there's firefighters passing by. And then general questions, please ask to everyone or directed to Dr. Vita Rivas in the chat. And we will have designated times during the presentation where we'll go ahead and answer these questions out loud. And then specific and more personal questions are better asked during individual meetings with ambassadors, which you can make with myself or any of the other three, and we can go ahead and share the link during this presentation as well. And if you do experience connectivity issues, please use the Zoom link that was sent to you to log back in, and we'll have someone that's consistently monitoring the wait room so we can make sure that you're back in. Cool. So on the screen, you'll find a general overview of the topics that we'll be covering during tonight's virtual information session. These will be designated by a slide. And so we'll go over a survey, program overview, LPCC overview, and KCREP, how to apply, survey as well, and then Q&A. Okay, so let's do a quick check-in. Please go ahead and enter in the chat. How did you hear about our program?
So I see online, search it up, KPEP website, go into Sac State website, coworker, alumni, online Google, SSIS Center. So a lot of online and alumni mentors.
Yeah, it looks like we have a variety. Wonderful. Okay, and then one more. So where did you go to school for your undergrad, or where are you coming from? Or where are you working right now? Any of those?
Sac State, Arkansas, San Diego State, Chico State, Boston University, UC Davis, UC Santa Barbara, Sac State. Well, from Boston, from the East Coast to Monterey, Georgia, University of Georgia, at UCLA.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. So now we're going to go into our program overview. So we are a full-time 3-year clinical training program with 4 specializations that we will go over in just a second. Well, they include career, school counseling, rehabilitation, and marriage, couples, and family counseling. The program is a social justice oriented program with an advocacy lens. Since we are in the capital city, we have hands-on experiential courses before you begin practicum and field study. And we have a strong relationship with our community partners and have an extensive site list for student placement. Students complete 700 hours of field work in their final year as part of their culminating experience, in addition to the counselor preparation comprehensive examination, also known as the CPCE. So in terms of field work, so we work to help students find sites. We have a site fair each year that is for students to familiarize themselves with sites prior to petitioning sites. And so this happens each spring as part of our conference days and prior to the fall field placement. And for practicum, students provide services out of our Center for Counseling and Diagnostic Services, also known as the CCDS, with the exception of school, who are placed in schools for both practicum and field study. And this is structured within the program, and students utilize the sites we've secured through our agreement and our MOU, Memorandum of Understanding process. And this will ensure that everyone is adequately placed for each specialization. Awesome. So our counselor education program coordinators, faculty, ambassadors, and students will go ahead and introduce themselves and the program concentrations that follow in these next slides. So first off, I'll go ahead and pass the baton to Lupita.
Hello, everybody. I'll be talking a little bit about the career specialization. So the career specialization is designed to prepare our students to know like the knowledge, the theories, and the skills to work as effective counselors within the career development specialization. And we can be in different settings. So those settings look such as community-based agency, K through 12, colleges and universities, private practice, industry and government. We're trained to facilitate a holistic career development, career decision-making planning process with groups and individuals that integrate personal and social career needs. We also address current issues in the 21st century, so such as self-reliance, work, family, life balance. So just to let you know, there's a lot of variety you can go with career, just to give you a little bit of more information on that. So I will now pass it to Chris, and he will talk more about the MCFC specialization.
Hi everyone, MCFC, we know as MCFC in our school, but outside is MFT, Marriage Family Therapist. So that's what we're known for. So basically, in our field, we do a lot with counseling when people have issues, like family have issues, individual with issues, they would come to us and we would be counseling with them. So we do a lot of clinical, and basically we desire to provide with other education competency required by state of California. Then we're going to be licensed as LMFT. So places we can work at, places like community agencies, county, state agency, hospital, private practice, even private consulting, and which is I actually look into this. I can actually work for the VA too. So if they need it, so the VA is federal. So I'm gonna pass to Susanna.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So for the rehabilitation specialization, students apply knowledge of medical, psychosocial, family, co-occurring, substance use, trauma, and environmental influences on disability and the individual's ability to function in their environment in working with co-occurring conditions. So rehab counselors are trained to identify and implement interventions to optimize the rehabilitative functioning. And as rehabilitative counselors, we work in a wide variety of settings, including private practice, community-based mental health facilities, substance treatment facilities, hospitals or treatment centers, and private agencies, college campuses, and state agencies. So there's a variety of options. And I will pass it to Zach.
So in the school specialization, you'll get experience working at like all levels of school. So like elementary through high school. You will graduate the program. It has a built-in PPS credential, which is basically your license to be a school counselor. It really in addition to like learning all of the counseling skills that are relevant to all of the specializations, the school specialization really prepares you to like become a key member of a school community. There's a lot of work in collaborating with all of the stakeholders in a school setting, from the administration to teachers to parents to school district individuals, and we're really focusing on 3 key areas when it comes to working with students, and that's their academic success, their college career readiness, and their social emotional growth. You know, in the program, you really get a very holistic picture of a school counseling program, and you learn to develop like a whole comprehensive program from the ground up. It's a really versatile specialization. There's a number of roles that you can work in coming from this specialization. A K through 12 counselor, academic counselor, there's all kinds of consulting work available, program coordinator, working in agencies, nonprofits. I think it's worth noting, I'm sure this will probably be covered also at some point tonight, but I think it's worth noting that all of the specializations have the majority of the same courses and the same credits. I think out of 60 credits, we all share 45 credits, and each specialization has about 15 unique credits. If there are any questions about school counseling later in the program here, please feel free to direct them to me.
Chris, you're
So-
muted. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so in our program, we go by cohort model. So usually we have 3 cohorts going on at once. So right now, cohort 10, 11, and 12. When you come in, you'll be cohort 13. The reason for cohort is so we can build connection and we can interact, because our field is actually small. So by the time you finish, you know all your cohort and almost everybody in the field. So it's just a way to support each other, and it's a way to be connected. And also, I'm going to talk about this later. Later, you can get into like mentorship. So these are the sequences of the cohort. These are the sequences of cohort. For example, Zach was saying earlier that we have 45 credits together. So usually first year, second year, we intermingling with different cohorts. So basic counseling skill is still the same. So then the cohort sequence is going like this. So career, after a while, you track with your specialization, MCFC, school, and rehab. Oh, so I was mentioned earlier, so in our program, we value volunteers and like student ambassadors. We volunteer for a lot of things. We have chance for you to join a student counseling society, which is they have like mentorship, which is highly recommended. When you don't have anything, you have a mentor right there you can ask. They also have Chi Sigma Iota, which is a honor society, is recognized internationally. And you have a student advisory committee, and you have student ambassadors like us. But for student ambassadors, all of us are third-year students. But our program value volunteer during connection, and when you volunteer in this program, that's a chance for you to interact with your peers outside your cohort, then get connection with professors. Those are highly recommended, in my personal opinion.
I think this one is me, Suzanne, is that right, Chris?
Yes, that's you, Dr. Reeves.
Okay, hello everyone. So a little bit about our program. So the California Board of Behavioral Sciences is the entity that licenses professional counselors, social workers, and marriage and family therapists. And we are board evaluated. So if you go to the BBS, you'll see that there's different programs that have been evaluated by the board for that licensing, so that they ensure the content fits the licensing requirements, meaning that it's easier for you to get licensed for professional counseling, for professional clinical counseling license, and a marriage and family therapy license. Now, our program, and Chris and Susanna were mentioning this earlier, it's a 60 unit program. 45 of those units are shared units. So it is a clinical training program preparing everyone to work with clinical mental health. On top of that, there's 15 units by specialization for that added concentration or specialization content. And in the case of marriage and family, marriage couple family counseling, that would be preparation for the LMFT. So we are clinically focused. So what that means is we prepare our students, all specializations upon graduation, to apply for their associate status. Every state has a candidate or temporary status while you're accruing hours for licensure post-grad, and our programs are preparing students to sit for that LPCC, or Licensed Professional Clinical Counseling License, post-graduation. So there's an associate status, there's a law and ethics exam, there are 3,000 hours required, and the exam, the licensing exam, is a National Clinical Mental Health Counseling exam. So Zach was mentioning this earlier, our school counseling concentration has an embedded PPS credential, meaning that for our school counselors, there's only one course that our school counselors take above and beyond for licensing, and it is the psychopharmacology. And the reason for that being extra is because, well, you have to have that for licensure, but to all of the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing requirements are met within the 45 units and those 15 specialization units. So what that does is this allows our school counselors to apply for their PPS credential, school counseling specialization, upon graduation to work in K-12 settings. Last part of this is CACREP. So CACREP is the Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs. This is a programmatic accrediting entity that is national. So our 4 programs are accredited by CACREP. And what that means is that if you move out of state, this makes licensing easier, because most licensing boards either require or are aligned with an accrediting entity. And in the professional counseling discipline, our accrediting body is CACREP. All 4 of our programs are CACREP, and it just makes it a little bit easier in terms of moving about. Susanna, back to you.
The information, Dr. Rivas. So we're going to go ahead and pause for a couple minutes and answer any questions you may have about the information that we just covered. Please keep in mind that the next section of the presentation will be reviewing information about the application process in detail. So these questions will not be answered at this time. And to help facilitate this Q&A, we will have Zach or Lupita reading out the questions entered for coordinators to answer. So if you have specific questions for a coordinator, please enter their first name and then their question, your question, so we know who to direct the question to, please.
I just want to say it's probably better if I don't read the questions, because I'm doing this from my phone and it's hard to see them all in one place.
Okay. I'll read it out for you. Is Sac State a research university?
Okay, So in terms of research, so we are a teaching heavy institution, but within our grad program, we have a course that fits the graduate writing intensive, and our EDC 250 is that course. And part of that, we have students practice preparing material for either research or presentation at a conference. So those are things that are naturally embedded within the program. And then we have things above and beyond. So we have, gosh, I don't know how many people are going to our Western Association for Counselor Ed and Supervision. We have maybe 8 students presenting at that conference. And then the week after that happens this month, we have about 4 or 5 people going to Greece to present at the European branch of the American Counseling Association. So naturally embedded our service opportunities when Chris was talking about our organizations to get involved and things that are above and beyond. And research is one of those aspects. But we are a clinical training program. So part of the foundation is really ensuring that you have the clinical experience before graduation in each of those settings. So that's the focus, is of the clinical nature. But at the same time, we've had so many students present, so many students participate in research and produce manuscripts with faculty.
So another question, what is the biggest difference between school specialization and career specialization? I want to become a college university counselor. So Zach, you want to answer that, or Susanna? I can answer if you want.
While you're all thinking about what you're placing in there, think of it this way. With our school, the focus is to get you credentialed to work in a K-12 setting and be able to provide services at elementary, middle, and high, as they look very different. For career, the focus is really higher ed, in particular career centers. Now, it doesn't mean everyone is going to be in higher ed or in a career setting higher ed, but and we've had a lot of students in career kind of go both ways, where they may do some clinical work on top of career work. But the idea is really that it's post K-12. It's going to be community colleges, higher ed, and career centers. So that's the focus there. Then when you get into marriage and family, it's a dual licensing specialization with a clinical mental health aspect and a marriage and family systems aspect. And then with rehabilitation, there's a clinical mental health aspect coupled with working with and understanding higher ed as it pertains to working at maybe disability services or the Department of Rehab. But we have a lot of students that also do work with substance and work in substance settings. So think of all of them as having just a little unique twist in that specialization. I don't know if that answers it. And then I don't know, Zach, Chris, or Lupita, if you want to add any more.
I think that's how I understand. A lot of school counseling is K-12 and career, mostly college. So if you like further information, you can contact one of the ambassadors, because our on time, so we have the time slot. So I'm going to go next. Kaylin said that I'm interested in the rehabilitation specialization, but I also want to be an LPCC. Does this mean I could do both if I specialize in rehabilitation? What do you think, Dr. Rivas?
I was multitasking. So what I heard, what I think everyone should know about our program is that the training and the 45 shared units and the opportunity for field work makes it so every one of the specializations will be LPCC eligible, meaning that if you go that route, the training is already embedded the way we run our program. So we've had many students in rehab and in career decide to do kind of a split internship. So they get the clinical and then they get that other aspect of maybe higher ed. So that's pretty common. There's another question in there that's asking about co-AMFTE. So our marriage, couple, and family counseling is a KCREP MCFC program. And that's why the name is called Marriage, Couple, and Family Counseling. So it's not co-AMFD accredited because the two of them are very different, CACREP and co-AMFD. At the same time, it's aligned, meaning that if you move out of state, since every state but California requires co-AMFD, you have the systems courses in place to be able to sit for or be evaluated and have an equivalency that would align with co-AMFD. So alignment means that you've taken courses and the systems courses needed to fit what they do, but we're not accredited. So you can't check off that it was co-AMFD accredited like you can CACREP. So most people, when they move out of state, the first license they could easily apply for is the professional counseling license, which is nationally the strongest license we have. But in California, marriage and family therapy license is the stronger license here. We have more LMFTs here. And that's what I mean by that. I don't know if Dr. Rivas, you'd want to add any more, but that is those questions in a nutshell. We'll come back to them. So keep using the chat. Let's hop into how to apply. Suzanne.
Actually need that, so I'll go ahead and send
Yeah.
it over your way.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Rita.
So no worries. Thank you. All of you asked some great questions, and we'll have some time towards the end to for another Q&A. So, let's talk about the application process. So, as you all know, the Cal State application already opened. So you would, go on the website, the Cal State Apply application, and you want to apply for fall 23 semester when you are creating your account. And the deadline to submit everything is January 6th. Keep in mind when you are doing your application, there is going to be a $70 fee. So just, keep that in mind. And our classes are fully in person. So just a little bit of more insight on the program. So how do we view your application? So we approach it as a holistic approach. So we look at your GPA, we look at your skills such as your experiences you have had in the past, and that's like work experience, volunteer experience. And we also look at your ability. So how you do in the interview, how you do in writing as well. Okay, so the GPA requirement is to have a minimum of a 3.0 in the last 60 semester or 90 quarter units completed when you are applying. And then the GPA requirements are established by our Office of Graduate Studies. And if you have any questions regarding admissions-based GPA, they must be directed to the Office of Graduate Studies. And again, I already spoke about, that GPA minimum 3.0 being in the last 60 semester units if you are in a semester, or 90 quarter units if you are in a quarterly based institution. And then we consider taking the following courses at Sac State through Open University if you do not meet the GPA requirement, and that is EDC 155, 156, and 157.
Ida, is that okay if I add a little bit more here? This
Yeah.
is probably the most common question is, what if my GPA is low? We don't require the GRE, so that means your GPA and your writing sample are going to be what we're using for academic, as she had just mentioned, that holistic review, that GPA piece. So there are cases that we've been able to do a special action, but another question in there was, we only have 80 spots and we typically have about 300 to 400 applications. So know that we have there is a competition in particular for school and marriage and family. So it's a tricky question. We do need that 3.0 GPA, but there have been cases where people have gone back and taken some classes to help that GPA, or maybe the rest of your application is really strong, like you've had years of experience post-graduation and have had a significant amount of other experiences that could make your application stronger. But we do have a holistic approach. So that is an option if you're close, but know that that's a mandate by OGS. So in that vein, I don't know if you wanted to add more. So these are some considerations. Have you been out of school for a long time? Do you have a strong work or volunteer history? Have you had other classes since you graduated? Okay, Lupita, back to you.
All right, let's see, where are we now? Let me look up. Okay, so like Dr. Rivas was mentioning, what if you have a low GPA? We mentioned those classes that you can potentially take here at Sac State to, boost your GPA. But there's other materials so that can make your application look strong, and that is your work history. So that can be like your current work, any volunteer work, your personal statement, and your letters of recommendation, which is part of the supplemental application, which we have a visual step-by-step of what the application looks like. So that will also help. And also know that we're only able to request 2 exemptions to the Office of Graduate Studies per concentration. So that means that you have 1 semester to demonstrate academic and dispositional success before being eligible to petition for full classification. And Dr. Rivas, please feel free to add anything here if you want to, like maybe make something a little bit more clear for the students.
So the one thing, and this was a question in the chat, was does it have to be those 3 classes? No, it doesn't. Let's say you graduated a year ago and you've taken some classes at the community college, or you took some classes here at Sac State, or you went through CCE. Really, when we look at the last 60, 90, that's taken into account. And so that's the buffer that we're talking about that could help. Doesn't hurt to take our classes because it gives you a little taste with the undergraduate minor, or many of you, if you went to Sac State, may have taken the undergraduate minor. So it gives a little kind of feel of our program for at least to a degree. But really, when it comes to GPA, anything you have is going to help when we look at the last 60, 90.
Thank you for that. So now I will pass it to Susana, and she will be showing you the visual of the application.
All right, thank you, Lupita. So how are we hanging in there? Is everyone still doing good? We are a little more than halfway, so hang in there. Okay, so this is what the landing page of the Cal State application is going to look like. Please be sure that you are on the correct platform when you do go to apply. So you will want to go ahead and select the term that you're applying for. So if you plan to apply for the coming fall 2023, you'll want to make sure you have the correct term on there and that you select graduate as the degree you're applying to. All right, and then so when you go on here, you will have to select what concentration you are applying for. So you'll want to click on the little plus sign to go ahead and add that to your cart. So if you decide to do rehab counseling, just click on that little button. And then next slide, please. Thank you. And then so this is what the page will look like. So you'll have to complete your personal information. So that's just basic details about your address, all that good stuff, academic history. So it'll have you upload your transcripts, and we'll go more into detail about every specific material that you'll need, but you'll submit all your academic history, any supporting information that's required, and then all the program materials as well that we will go over in just a second. Okay, so here's a list of important things to know as you do fill out your application. So it's going to ask you, like I said, what specialization you're applying to. You will want to select face-to-face delivery format. You'll select the program. So if, like I said, if you're doing rehab counseling, you'll go ahead and click that. So no, if you are a returning counseling graduate student who's applying only for the PPS credential program, please be certain to select the PPS school counseling as a program of study that you're applying for. And again, this is only for returning graduates that may apply to the PPS program. Awesome. And then during this next section, we're going to review the counselor education program supplemental application. Like I said, everything is going to go on the same Cal State website, which will be this bottom right program materials section. And so when you click on that section, this is what you'll see, just a description about our program and how many units we have. It's a 3-year program, 9 to 12 units each semester. And so here, program specific materials that you will want to have ready, because you will need to have all of these submitted in order to apply fully. So you'll need a written statement, which is essentially a writing sample to see what your writing level is at. Relevant work experience that's listed either in a resume or a CV, a personal statement writing prompt, professional letters of recommendation between 2 and 4. And we do recommend that at least one of your letters of recommendation is from a professor, if that's possible. And an official copy of all transcripts from every single college or university that you've attended. And so there is a caveat for the transcript. So if you are a Sac State student, you don't need to submit the transcript, as Sac State already has access to it. But if you took a college course at, let's say, Sac City College, even if it's just one, you'll want to make sure that you do submit that transcript. So again, just to reiterate, if you went to Sac State, you don't need to submit your transcript, but students from every other program need to submit every single transcript in order for it to be evaluated and for the file to be complete. All right, and then I'll pass it back to Lupita to explain a little bit more about the writing statement.
All right, so the written statement is part of your supplemental application that Susana was talking about. And when on the screen, it was showing like the circle at the bottom right-hand side, that is where you're going to be submitting this information. So for the written statement, you want to answer this question. Again, it's on our website. If you're feeling lost, like where's all the supplemental application information, it is on our website. So you want to answer the prompt in APA format. If you are unfamiliar with what APA format is, I strongly encourage you to visit your writing center. If you're currently not in school, I would offer resources as Purdue OWL, and on there it will show you what APA format is. So you want to describe why multiculturalism, diversity, social justice is important to you within the concentration that you are applying for, and how this fits with overarching paradigm of counseling and working with individuals, children, and families. So again, you want to focus it on the concentration that you are applying for. I'm just going to go over this really briefly, just because this information is on our website, and just wanted to, put it out there and expose it for you all. So the purpose of the written statement is to, let us know of your writing skills and assess your experience with research. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it has to be APA style. I just verbally said a resource, Purdue OWL, if you don't know what that is. And also visiting your writing center if you are currently in school. All right, The second thing we ask for is a resume or a CV. You can turn in either or. And we want to know about your experience. So that experience can be like your current position you have now, positions you have had in the past, volunteer, things that relate to counseling. We want to see in order for you to be considered for admissions. It should include diverse populations, and again, relating it or relevant to counseling. So some examples can be if you were teaching, maybe coaching, ABA therapy, group counseling, just a few examples to give you for what we're looking for. So then the third thing is the personal statement. So for the personal statement, we are looking for you to submit no more than 2 pages, double typed, 12-point font. And the prompt we are looking for you to answer is to please describe your journey to this point, where you are now, how your experiences influence who you are today, and what makes you want to become a career MCFC, rehab, or school counselor. It should be 1 to 2 pages, again, no more than 2 pages. So that's the third thing we are looking for. The fourth thing is letters of recommendation. So we are asking for 2 letters of rec. They're required. It's recommended you get 3, but just know that that's not a requirement, just 2 letters. And this request will be done through your Cal State application. So when you're doing your Cal State application on there, you'll request the person you are asking to write a letter for you. And then they will receive an email to answer questions about you. And then you want to make sure you don't wait last minute to do this, and send this and let your letters of rec people know of the deadline, and not wait last minute, to give them some time, to do this for you.
I want to highlight that because last year it allowed extra recommenders to be input, and that looks like that's not the case this year. So if it's only allowing you 2, make sure you give your recommender a heads up so that they complete the form or they keep an eye on that email. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so again, the first reference from the person who observed the application, graduate level, academic potential. So this is letting you know like what the recommender should highlight for you. The second one, the person who observed you, relevant experience in diverse settings. So really highlighting like who your supervisor was at your work, like your graduate level potential. That's the first one. We want to see what that looks like. And the second letter, we want to see how you work with diverse settings. Okay. I already kind of spoke about this a little bit earlier, but I'll go ahead and just make it a little bit brief. So you want to, again, send your letter with time. You don't want to wait last minute. Allow them some time. If you have already sent the link through your Cal State Applied to your letter of recommendation person, you want to ask them, just check your spam. It could potentially be in your spam. You want to remind them, send reminders when the deadline is coming up. And then you also want to check in with them just to see if they have already done this for you, just so that doesn't interfere with your application process. So I will now pass it to Susana, and she's going to talk about the recommendations part.
Thank you, Lupita. Yes, okay, so this page right here is what it'll look like once you have submitted a request for someone to be the person who's going to write the letter of recommendation. So You'll go in, you'll put their name, their email, and then you'll be able to see the status of whether it's requested, and I believe it'll tell you once it's been submitted as well. And then, so for transcripts, so you'll want to send all official transcripts directly to the Office of Graduate Studies. And again, Sac State transcripts don't need to be sent. And in terms of deadline, so this varies by graduation year. So if you're currently in undergrad, go ahead and contact the Office of Graduate Studies and ask them. But for people that have already graduated, you have to submit this by the close of the application materials, which is January 7th, 2023. And okay, so the GRE, the Graduate Record Exam, many of you may have heard of this, is actually not required for our program. We are asking for a writing sample instead, and we have the writing prompt as part of the screening process. And so another question that we do get is if the GRE will help if your GPA is lower than 3.0. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So yeah, so don't pay $200 to take the GRE. You don't need to. Okay, and so we'll go ahead and do another check-in. And so we welcome any questions you may have about what we just went over. And side note, we are going to talk about the timeline next. So please hold to those questions for now. Let's see. So I see when it asks for GPA in the application, should we use our overall GPA or calculate just the last 90? I'm sorry, say that again.
So what I would say with the GPA calculation, we're going to verify. So I would just put your GPA as it was reflected in your transcripts, and then when you submit your unofficial, it gets us started in the calculation part of it. So we can give IT a heads up and they calculate your last 60, 90. So upload your unofficial, put what's in there, and then we'll verify through official and unofficial.
I'm going to answer this question because I see a lot of students ask this question. Working full-time in this program, in your first year is a little bit easier. Your second year is actually it's getting harder, but you still can work it. But mostly on third year is extremely difficult because you have field study. This is based on my experience. I don't know what your experience like, Susanna and Lupita, but most of my peers in my cohort are people I know. Third year, we have to take it off. So just think about it, because grad school is more a lifestyle, it's a changing career. So field study is necessary. So those are good to keep in mind. Is that answer your questions there?
Yeah, to speak to that, the majority of our students do work full-time. The majority of them. I don't think we have very few that aren't working. The large part of our student body does work. Our classes run 2 hours and 50 minutes, 1 day a week. They go Monday through Thursday. There are classes that run at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m., and 7 p.m. And each section, typically for the 45 shared, there are multiple sections running. So 4 to 5 sections are running. And then in the specialization, they tend to be afternoon to account for everyone because there are fewer of them running by specialization. What else was there in here? Personal statement. Yeah, we change up the prompts, we change up the interview day activities. So it's not exactly the same thing every year. And then the other question had to do with how do you have to be a traditional student coming in right from your undergrad? No, in fact, part of our assessment process takes into account work experience and any all of your work experience. So there are pros and cons to coming right from undergrad and pros and cons to coming a little bit later. But what we tend to see in our discipline in counseling is a mix of individuals and backgrounds, because the 60-unit training program is everything that you need, but we want to ensure that people are ready coming in. So sometimes it's right from undergrad. A lot of times it is individuals who are career change or have been in the field in some capacity. So it really is a mix. I don't know if any of the other faculty would want to add more to that. Or if any of our ambassadors want to add more to that.
Yeah,
So
I'll just say that, sorry, Chris.
go ahead, Zach, because
Just based on my experience in the
go for it. So,
yeah, just based on my experience with cohort 10, it's a very diverse group. Some of my peers have been were like fresh out of their undergrad, and like I, for example, was I think 14 years out of my undergrad before I applied for this program. And I think, as Dr. Rivas said, there's pros and cons to both. There's not one way that's better. You know, I saw like a lot of questions pop up about like what kinds of experience like count and that kind of thing. And it's like whatever your experience is, like all experience counts. I think when you're talking about your experience in your application, your interview, and so forth, it's, you know, you can find the ways that whatever experience you had is relevant to counseling, communication skills, collaboration skills, and things of that nature. So yeah, and diverse undergraduate backgrounds as well. You know, anything, you know, a lot of people coming from psychology. My undergraduate background is in history, and then there's just about everything in between. Yeah, that's all I got for that.
So as far as experience goes, I came to this program when I was 40. So I was at 17 years out of the program. So there's well, life experience, I have a lot, but then I was stuck with technology stuff. And right now I'm still technically challenged in a way. So I'm going to answer the question, what's the schedule like? So in your first year, most classes are for 2 hour slot. So depends on your work schedule. How I did mine was I try to squeeze everything in 1 or 2 days. So just say I have a class 9 a.m. in the morning, and I have another class at 4 p.m. Then I have another class at 7 p.m. That's 3 classes already. So your first year is very flexible. They have classes in the morning and in the evening. But when you get to your specialization, like your third year and a second year, that's when they have certain classes at nighttime. So so those are to put in consideration. Like I said before, this program is a lifestyle. It requires lots of time and dedication, and depends on how do you want it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, Zach, Lupita, everyone that chimed in. We are going to go ahead and move on for now. Again, we'll have a Q&A at the end. So these are all wonderful questions. So timeline, I will pass this to Dr. Rivas.
The timeline. So the timeline. So again, we're looking at knowledge, skills, self-awareness, dispositions. We're looking at a goodness of fit in the evaluative process. No, we want it to be a good fit for you too. We are not an online program. We are an in-person program with a lot of hands-on opportunities. So know that about the types of programs you're applying to make sure you're aware of what you want for your educational and clinical journey. So we're looking for a goodness of fit. We have 2 processes. We have a primary and secondary screening. Due to the nature of the the sheer volume of applicants to the program. Not everyone makes it from primary screening to secondary screening. So having a healthy application packet is really good. To have that knowledge is demonstrated through GPA, have your unofficial on there. It makes the process faster for us if you've given us your unofficials, so we could get working on those calculations. And then the writing sample. We're looking at aptitude for graduate writing through that writing sample. So not only the prompt, but APA. In terms of skills, we're looking at, and this is where what you've done, volunteer in the work world, related to mental health, unrelated to mental health, this is really important. So that resume is going to reflect anything you would have done in terms of service if you volunteered for Psych-Hi, for example, in undergrad, or and you led a chapter, or you worked in a helping industry for 10 years. That's all going to be reflected in your resume. So consider that everything's reflected in there, because that's our picture of you as a professional, or your service or your research or any of your background would be reflected that way. And then letters of rec. So there's always, this isn't black and white. Like, you don't need to have a professor or a supervisor, but what we're looking at is the person filling it out. Are they an evaluator of your skills or your knowledge? Meaning, have they observed or worked with you in a supervisory capacity, versus like a friend or a family member? That's not going to be an objective letter. So consider anyone who's evaluated your skills. And then self-awareness, that personal reflection is going to speak to why you're coming here and why you want to do this kind of work. And so this is a little bit of, and many of us, I always tell our students, we need to be one shade healthier than the people we're working with. So one aspect of this is just ensuring that you've done your work and you're ready for a clinical training program, and you're applying for this for good reasons, where this is a good fit for you and this is a good fit for us. Secondary screening. So we do a blind review, meaning that several faculty will go through the primary screening by specialization. So we have 12 faculty in our program, and they'll be reviewing by specialization all of your application materials. And then from there, we invite a select number for our secondary screening process, which is our interview day. If you've been following us on Instagram, you may have seen pictures from past interview days. And then you'll see a little video on our website if you've been to our website. But the interview day is a day-long in-person evaluative process, meaning that you will be there and spend the entire day with us, and we will be spending the entire day with you. We'll have an interview with the faculty and one of the ambassadors or another third-year student. There's a group activity, and then there's another writing prompt. So we have a secondary measure in person with all the primary measures for a total, but we're sending admits and wait lists that'll be selected from the secondary screening, meaning that if you don't make it to interview day, we need to have that process. We're selecting from that pool. So that is the bulk of it for that one. So what does this look like? So once everything is submitted through CSU Apply, it takes the system about 72 hours for it to hit our campus. And then our campus would have your file. So we begin a file. Once we have our file, that's when your transcripts could be sent, because if you send them too early, they won't have a place to link it to. So you have to have applied, and then the official transcripts will be linked to your file. And OGS has the staff to support evaluation of transcripts. Once everything is submitted, we are waiting then after that 72 hours for material to come to us and be made available for faculty to review. And so we'll begin reviewing about mid-January until the 1st. And so we'll have that list by the 1st so that we can give 2 weeks notice to those people, but hold that date. And if you're international, let us know, because we're obviously going to have to do a workaround if you're international. So you will find out by the 3rd and you'll have your grouping because of the sheer amount of people coming through interview day. There'll be different kind of things that you're doing at different times, maybe a tour, then the writing prompt, then the interview day, things like that. So the 17th is our interview day. So just hold that date and know that it's coming if this is a program you're really interested in applying or being part of. Recommendations go to the Office of Grad Studies by March 1st. So we're going through this process fairly rapidly, and we'll have our information sent to the Office of Grad Studies. That process could take a bit longer. It could take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks for you to get, and we wait for them to do that admit letter. And with that admit letter, you have 2 weeks to submit your intent to enroll. That allows us to move into the wait list because we typically have a wait list. We're going through less and less of the wait list these days, but we do go through the wait list. And so know that if you haven't heard anything, you'll get the denials or admits right away. The wait list, we're waiting for anyone that's offered for that 2-week intent to enroll to happen. And I think they usually send it out like a Thursday. So know that while we have that it may take a minute before you hear. The other thing, you will anticipate by about that time, you're going to get emails around April, May with the cohort sequence registration for our 216, 280. That's our theories and our lab course. We have hands-on experiences in your first semester is one of them. And then you'll be part of our Canvas announcements. So you'll start getting information coming very quickly if you've been admitted, and you'll be invited to our new student orientation and all cohorts retreat. And then this summer, there's also Office of Grad Studies orientation. So all of that will come before the semester has ended. You'll receive a notification from Office of Grad Studies if you're accepted or denied. You have 2 weeks for that intent to enroll. We like to move immediately into the wait list. The one challenge is sometimes people submit their intent to enroll, but then they don't enroll in the fall. So there have been 1 or 2 times that we've gone into the wait list late. That's happening less and less, but we do have that happen where someone will submit the intent to enroll and then they go somewhere else. That we can't account for, unfortunately. So know that that's another aspect. The process takes some time, so just be mindful of OGS. They be sure that they're notified of any changes, make sure the information we have to contact you is correct. That's the biggie there. Chris, I think this is back to you, maybe.
Chris, you got this? Basically, these are just some of the links. Sorry, some of the helpful links that you may want to go to. So you have the Office of Grad Studies webpage, you have the financial aid or CADAA webpage, and the Counselor Education Program webpage. And we do also have listed our emails that you can contact us at. And please be sure to follow us on Instagram at Sac State Counselor Education. We are consistently posting updates on there. And so that's a really great way to stay connected. Okay, and so that concludes our formal presentation. So thank you everyone so much for coming. We'll pause for about a minute for those that don't have any questions and want to head out, but we will stay to answer any other questions that weren't answered. So thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it, and good luck.
So now if you're not leaving and you have some questions, because there were so many of them, feel free to raise your hand. Everyone should know how to use the raise hand. You're welcome to turn on your camera if you want, and then we're all here to answer those questions.
So I see
Emmeline, I think, was
Emmeline,
first.
Emmeline, yes.
Yeah, Emmeline, hi. I just had a question for clarification. So I heard, and also through the text chat, that we're only in classes 1 time every week for 2.5 hours. Is that true?
Yeah, so the classes run 2 hours and 50 minutes once a week. So let's say you're doing theories class from 9 to 11:50. Maybe you're doing the lab from 12 to 1:50. Now I'm making up numbers, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then let's say then you have Wednesday, 2 more classes on Wednesday, then we'd see you the next week.
Got it. Okay, understood. So it multiple days during the week, but only for that timeline. Okay.
Correct. A class is 2 hours and 50 minutes, and our students typically take 3-4 classes each semester. Some of them are 3 units, some of them are 2 units. So even 4 classes varies, but yes,
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
absolutely.
I think Justin is next.
Hi. Yeah, sorry about that. We're kind of in an office right now with a few people here. When it comes to the question I have, I'm wondering how many people actually get in from Sac State roughly? Is there like a preference for Sac State students in comparison to other places?
We not intentionally, we aren't prioritizing anyone. We really do look at your application materials. We have a rubric for all of it. So we're just looking at the strength of your application materials. Dr. Rivas?
I think the quickest answer would be no. There is no preference given to Sac State alumni or anybody. It's a holistic metric, and we view everybody from that agnostic lens on professional dispositions, transcripts, GPA, and then obviously, if you're invited to interview day, that holistic lens as well. So short and sweet, no, there is not.
I have kind of like a secondary question to that, if you don't mind.
Before you go there, the only caveat to that is that we have a credential program that's available to alumni. And so that PPS credential option is for graduates of our program because they would have completed those 45 units. And so really what we're doing is bringing you back for PPS specific things for school. So that's the only caveat is with that.
Okay. Well, I kind of had an additional question to that, which was essentially because I have a lower GPA, I'm very close to the cutoff, but just below it. What kind of steps would a student in my position need to take in order to get to that second interview or to the first interview even?
So we have had instances that we're looking at the totality of it. So we'll rank even the GPA and and we have had students with maybe it's very close, but the rest of their application packet is really strong. And so then they are invited to interview day. What that process looks like is kind of 2 steps after that. So let's say at interview day that you're a candidate we would like to offer admissions to. We would then have to have a petition for a special action to the Office of Graduate Studies and have to have enough evidence as to why we think you would be successful in the program. So we don't do very many of them, but we have done special actions in the past. And so that brings you in as a conditionally classified student, and then your success, so having a successful semester allows you to petition for classification, if that makes any sense. Dr. Rivas, did you add more?
Yeah, I would highlight what we talked about earlier on, that if your GPA is not near where it needs to be, there are some classes you can take. If you have not yet graduated, I would recommend picking up maybe an additional course to help raise your GPA, repeating a course with that maybe you had a lower grade in, and that'll help bump up your GPA because that is just helpful for us on the front end to be able to see that. As the other Dr. Rivas said, the special actions are few and far between. And so to be a competitive candidate, I would say either repeat a course that you had low grade in, or take an additional course over the summer or whenever to raise that GPA.
And work history matters too, or any volunteer work history is one other aspect that usually buffers it.
Okay.
Chris, were you keeping track of who was next?
Yeah, so Trace Snow is next. Are you there, Trace?
Yes, I wanted to ask if, or how much is the tuition approximately?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to put that into here so you can check it out. So I'm just going to throw that into the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, while we're waiting, Heidi, you're next.
Hi, I'm also really interested in somatic therapy and narrative therapy, and I'm wondering if any of the faculty members have a specialty in those areas.
That's a good question. I'm going to answer that question. As far as specific theories, depends on the professors. I'm not sure what professors specialize in what specific theories, but in the theory class, basically in our program, we introduce you variety theories. And sometimes when I came in, I was totally solution focused. Right now, I'm in my field study. I use solution. I use CBT. I use still solution focus and therapy and narrative. So these depends on your preferences. We don't specialize in one thing. If that's answering your question.
So in a nutshell, you can take a peek if you go to our website and look at the faculty. A lot of that you can gather from our research interests and our experience in the field. So while that's an aspect I bring in, and I know Dr. Rivas does when we talk about trauma, we have a part-time faculty that brings in somatic aspects and experiential aspects. There's a lot of different interventions we do bring in. But foundationally, we want to ensure that everyone is exposed to all of the theories and all of the interventions. So a big part of what we're trying to do is not bring in our flavor specifically so that you can build your integrated model of theory and intervention. But if you wanted to do above and beyond, I would check out the faculty's profile and get a sense of, I wanted to maybe get this other piece for research or experience wise. So know that we try to stick to very generalist and help you hone in on what fits for you.
Thank you.
Next one.
Alicia, you're next.
Thank you. So my question was also about tuition, and I did check out the website. There's like a separate fee for the credential program, but since like for the PPS, is that included in the post-bachelorette fee, or would it be like the post-bachelor fee plus the credential program fee?
Yeah, it's not a plus. I think that really is the teacher credentialing programs that it's referring to.
Okay.
This is the best question though for is this the bursar's office? For financial aid, that's the best question to get the most accuracy, but we are post-baccalaureate, and that's what I fairly confident saying on recording is what you'll be charged, but I would definitely follow up with financial aid for specifics.
Okay.
We're not considered credential only.
Okay.
And it's not an ad.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Kind of in that vein of tuition, I know no one's asked this yet, but scholarships tends to come up. One of the neat things I think about Sac State is there's a lot of scholarship opportunities. We've been working on our fundraising too, so that we can provide counselor ed, we could provide scholarships, and we've been working on that fundraising so we can help support like CP comps has a fee with it, so we can support students that may need that help. There are grants and things to go to conferences. It's not very much, but it's nice that those are available. And since we're KCRAP, you have access to apply for the NBCC scholarships. The National Board for Certified Counselors typically has pretty decent scholarships, and they have a minority fellowship program where there are scholarships upwards of, I don't know, 8,000 and 10,000. So there are opportunities like that, and we make that available so it can offset any costs that you have. Okay, so I think Katie maybe next.
Yeah, Katie's next.
Hi, I have two questions. The first question is in regards to the writing prompt. I'm feeling just a little nervous about it in the sense that it's been so long since I've graduated from my bachelor's. So I'm just wondering what types of resources would you recommend as far as like reviewing my writing?
In terms of reviewing, what we're really looking for is a combination of the content, like addressing the prompt to the best of your ability. We know you're not an expert in any of that. So really this is testing your research abilities and familiarizing yourself with some of what we're asking. So like the wellness model, I think may have been an aspect of it. So it's very counseling, and you'll see that and you'll find that in the research. So yeah, so one aspect of it is really just not the content, like what you're not going to be an expert in any of it at this time, but what is the research? Are you kind of close or in the area with how you were able to find the research? And then the biggest thing is the APA. Are you sending us a paper that clearly you have an understanding of APA in terms of paper formatting and references?
Thank you. I guess my question, I meant more like editing wise, like, are there any like on-campus resources that I could go to
Oh, I
or,
see.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. Lupita, do you know, would we have resources on campus, career or writing, or ambassadors can help to a degree as well?
We do. My follow-up question is, were you a previous undergraduate student at Sac State or a student there at all?
Yes, yeah, that's where I did my bachelor's at.
Okay, yeah, so we do have the writing center, and I can send that to you in the link, in the chat. I'll send you the link. And we also have our career center. I know for a career center, our alumni are allowed to make appointments. So I can give you both links and give both a shot.
That would be great. Thank you so much. And my other question is, are you able to send the Zoom link to this info session at all?
Yeah, so what we'll plan to do, we always make it available. So you could look at last year's, it's online, it's on our website. So if you go, and I'll put our website in here so you have it, because sometimes it's just faster to have it bookmarked. But if you go under the prospective students tab, that's where all of that information is. So you'll see the past recording, and then we'll upload. Give us about 48 hours because we have to have IT help us upload this, and we'll put this up there as well. And what I can do is send it off if you've registered to be here. So you can get that in a mass email as well. So yes, yeah, that will be available.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's all
welcome.
my questions.
Okay, Ziming, you're next. You are muting, so you have to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, so we need to write an essay to answer 3 questions. And the second question is, please describe the awareness model and how this influences the training, assessment, and interventions in counseling. So do you want us to write our point of view about the awareness model, or you want us to describe a point of view from scholars?
So I guess the point of the writing prompt is to give you an area for research so that you can put you can use your research, and we can see your research abilities and your writing skills. So I don't know if Anthony, I don't know if, or Dr. Rivas, do you have a better answer for that? So that's really what we're looking at. Is it APA? Does the research match? So the prompt is intended to give you a little bit of a direction with your research.
So, which means we should describe the awareness model is from our research result, not of our personal point of view.
It should be grounded in literature, correct?
Okay,
It should be grounded in the research.
thank you. Yeah,
You're
how
welcome.
about them like worse other mental health professionals, which means so it means psychology, or I don't understand the other mental professions.
Correct. Most the mental health professions that we have, primarily counseling, social work, and psychology, they all view mental health and the human condition from multiple different lenses. Traditionally, counseling is a health and wellness growth model. Psychology is a medical disease model. And then social work, you're looking at from a macro system, micro system. Generally, think of Bronfenbrenner's ecological development theory. They look from a systemic, a social systemic model. And so that's what we're looking for, is can you identify the difference between, i.e., do you know what you're getting into? As for all the students here, what is counseling? Counseling is different than psychology. A lot of you have undergrads in psychology, and it's theoretical. It is research and disease model oriented. Counseling is practical, applicable, and wellness model. Does that make sense? And so
Yes.
Looking at it from that and then grounded in the literature.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Josiah, you're next.
Yes, thank you. So it was mentioned a couple times that social justice was a foundation for your program. So as an ethnic studies major, this kind of stuck out to me, which is kind of the reason I gravitated towards your program. So in what capacity do you guys use social justice, and how does this differentiate your program from other programs?
Okay, so yeah, one aspect of that is going to be so one of your first classes is EDC 210, and so it's a social advocacy, social justice course. So part of that discussion kicks off, so to speak, how we integrate that material into every one of the other courses. And then what we try to do is we have opportunities for advocacy through our Chi Sigma Iota. And so as you're unpacking research and your social justice lens, and you're developing your own multicultural skills, you have an avenue to put that or deploy it, so to speak, so that we can make some change with legislation. So our Chi Sigma Iota has a legislative and advocacy committee arm. And what we're doing is bringing these issues through that committee for students who want to do that service, so that we can start to make or follow or support legislative changes that influence our field. So that's the opportunity above and beyond just exposure within the courses to be able to utilize some of that understanding and background.
And I want to add to that, with our university being an anchor university for the Greater Sacramento region, our anti-racist agenda within the College of Ed as an integrated university, multiculturalism, social justice are imbued in every class you take, and in the coursework when we're working with in a diverse and multicultural world with clients from multiple different identities and backgrounds. It is paramount that each class and all curriculum has that, and our students grow from that. So that's kind of the lens we come from. That makes us different from many other programs where we are working with you all from day one, the students to get in from day one, to be the most ethical and legal practitioners and the most multiculturally competent and cognizant practitioners you can be by the time you walk out the door, year 3, but most importantly, in each and every class, you are touching upon those pieces and having those brave conversations and highlighting, the inequity in our society.
And just to add one piece I completely forgot is our Center for Counseling and Diagnostic Services. So our students in their 4th semester begin their practicum experience. And with the exception of school counseling, everyone else is in our center. And then we have an opportunity for students that want to stay there in the center to intern. So in that center, we're trying to expand availability of services to the community. So now we're doing this through providing access to mental health support and career support through our center to the community. And we're trying to build on offering workshops that we can both record and could have people come to, and groups that would fit that would be a good fit for our community. We have a very diverse community. So having that diverse representation in the clinic and providing services and providing psychoed through workshops is another aspect of our program. Now I think it's Ivanka.
Yeah, Ivanka, you're next.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the letters of recommendation. I heard that at least one should come from a professor that we had, if possible. Is there any preferences in like the department that professor could be from, or does it have to be like a psychology or a counseling professor?
We don't, what we're looking for is anyone who's been in a capacity to evaluate you. And so that's the focus I think I would have, even though we say one supervisor and one faculty member, even that you have to take with a grain of salt because your experiences are going to differ, right? So if someone's coming from undergraduate, then that would be good to have both of those because they may not have had extensive experience in a setting that they've been supervised in. Whereas if you've been 20 years in the field and you're changing careers, that's a different situation. You're not going to have a faculty member that could speak to your academic ability. It's probably going to be a supervisor. So I guess the key here is make it work for you. But what we want is someone who's evaluated you, because if they've not been in an evaluative role, we're not getting a very objective view of your skills in any of those areas. So if it's psych, if it's history, if it's counseling, I mean, we're one of those diverse programs where you could come with an array of background. I was a bio major. We have communication majors. Sometimes it's psych majors. The clinical training is the program's going to provide everything you need. So now we're just looking at aptitude and what you're coming in with and how you've been evaluated before. Dr. Rivas, would you add any more? Ambassadors, would you add any more?
Yeah, for me, I think the background is not as important because my background was the information system. So, but as long as you have the aptitude, you have the heart, and the question you need to ask yourself is, what makes you want to become a counselor? That's the most important question that you ask yourself. Is that answer your question there, Ivanka?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. David, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I guess my question is, it sounds like the program is really embedded in a focus on multicultural and diversity as its lens. And I guess my question is whether that's kind of the main modality or lens that the training is happening under to, maybe in like the specialty of MFT, or if there's kind of a different lens that's being used as an emphasis, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so while you're thinking about that, Dr. Rivas, here's my best attempt at understanding your question. So while that is our value and part of our mission statement and integrated into all of the experiences you have above and beyond and threaded into courses, we're still an accredited program that has to hit upon all of the program outcomes and learning outcomes that meet accreditation. So there are limitations to how we can, change the flavor of any course. So while we bring in advocacy and multicultural and heightened awareness of working with diverse populations and vulnerable populations, we're still hitting up all the systems requirements. Do you know what I mean? In MCFC, we're still making sure you understand all the theories. So we try not to impose our theory. And that was one of the questions earlier, because we want you exposed to the entirety of our discipline. So you have all of that met, and we're meeting all the standards that way, if that makes sense. So in one of the classes, for example, in the MCFC, you'll be doing and practicing sculpting through a psychodrama, and it's really hands-on. Your first class, 216, 280, you get theories, and then you're practicing counseling micro skills one-on-one with a buddy. Then you're taking a group class and you're facilitating a group with your peers and you're practicing those skills. Then you get approved to go into practicum. Now you're working with clients, but you've had a lot of hands-on experiences before that help your preparation for the work you're going to do. And it all scaffolds. We always tell students, trust the process, and we have high expectations and high support. And so part of that process is that while that's a lens, and you'll see that it's not the focus, because in a theories course, you're still going to have to talk about every one of the theories. Now, theories with what are some things we know about working with diverse populations. Does that make sense? Dr. Rivas, I don't know if you'd add more.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. It's when we're working through the whole program, it's looking at, Bowenian, satir, narrative, whatever theory or systemic approach you're looking at, but understanding how to work with clients from multiple different cultures, multiple different identities, and understanding how to utilize all of those approaches for your client's wellness. And as we said earlier, we don't enforce our own theoretical orientation. I'm an existentialist, but I make sure that all students understand, systemic approaches, that they understand narrative, CBT, solution focus, etc. But circling back, all of those pieces are embedded in each of our classes, understanding that our clients do come from multiple different perspectives, and how can we work with them without doing harm, work with them through understanding.
So I don't know, Susanna, if you or Lupita or Zach or Chris want to add any more about your experience with our program in respect to that question.
Yeah, I would chime in. I would chime in on that one and just say that, like, one of the things I've noticed throughout the program is that, like, as it regards multiculturalism, that self-awareness has been something that's been emphasized throughout almost all the classes I've been in, and that's like an awareness of our own cultural intersectionality. Each of us has a unique intersection of different cultures based on our age, ethnicity, religion, sexual identity, all, the multiple identities, and having an awareness of that is paramount, and then understanding how that intersectionality meets with the intersectionality, culturally speaking, of our clients. So a lot of self-reflection has kind of been key in almost every course that I've been a part of.
So Zach hit all the points, but I'm gonna add some more to it. Like in the beginning, when I came in, I thought I was in one theory, but I didn't realize. I realized that different theories have different limitations because we live in a society with diverse populations. So sometimes one theory doesn't apply to one, only works with a certain population, but then you ran into another population, then it doesn't work. For example, I was so into solution focus, and I realized I work in a school setting and all this continuing education in a school setting, and all the students need a lot of empathy, need to show emotion. So basically, I was available for them, so that I switched to narrative, and I I switched to CBT depends. So as far as theory wise, because I always think what's best for my client. So I'm not stick to one particular theory anymore because I know each one of them have some limitations to it. If anybody else want to add up anything.
Just to put my 2 cents in here. So I come from an ethnic studies background. That's what I majored in for undergrad. And I wasn't actually fully aware that this program was based on a social justice lens, and I absolutely love it. Not only do I feel like I've grown immensely as a person, but all my colleagues, everybody just has different experiences to offer, and things that we may not even think of could be just a huge experience to someone else. And so I feel like in the last 2 years, this is my 3rd year, I've significantly grown, not just in knowledge, but knowing how to talk to other people, recognizing my own biases and being able to step back and not be judgmental, be non-judgmental. And so I really enjoy the program. I learned something new in every single class, and it's been a wonderful experience for myself.
Yeah, I was just gonna add about the bias. Like, I've noticed that, like, since the beginning to now, I am more aware of my biases and why these are coming up, and you question yourself, like, why do I have this? What does this stem from? A lot of reflecting in that aspect as well.
So I guess that thematically, this is not psychology. This is very different. So clinical training, this is a terminal degree. So people who exit our program are going to be working as professionals that with the end goal of being licensed or credentialed in a discipline or in an area. So the theme here is we do a lot of insight. That one you will find a lot of thinking about, digesting, talking about it, practicing, and reflecting. So we really don't want students that are checking a box. If you just like, I'll just take this class, this may not be the best program for you. It is so hands-on, and there's a high expectation that you're engaging and you're participating in the content, you're sharing about yourself, you're reflecting about yourself. So that line gets very, that you'll see, but that's pretty typical in most counseling programs, that there's that high relation, like a focus on interpersonal growth. Anyone could do the skills. We got a max chat with our understanding of ourselves in the world.
Does that answer your question, David?
David, we went all the way, full circle, all the way.
Yeah, it does completely. It was mainly that there isn't one particular theory that's focused on. You learn all theories and how all theories are linked to multiculturalism, diversity. That was mainly my question, is whether it was like a specific emphasis on one theory or if we learn all theories, and then, you know, each person learns how they want to approach it in their own practice. So
Diana.
So Diana, you're next.
Hi everyone, hope you guys are having a good evening. My question is, how do you go about it if you want to apply to 2 of the specialties? Like, I was thinking of, I want to do rehab and career, or rehab and school. So how would I go about that, or is that not possible?
That's not an option. So you're going to have to pick one, and you're going to have to speak to one, and you'll be evaluated from the faculty that are the faculty advisors in that specialization. But we are working on figuring out how to integrate kind of a dual track. And so for those of you that would be admitted come 2023, more information is going to come as to how to go about doing a dual, but that wouldn't be an option in the application. Dr. Rivas?
I was going to speak to that's not an option, but one of the things I encourage all students prior to applying, this is different than your undergrad. So in undergrad, it's kind of like, oh, I'm not sure what I'm going to do at the end of these 4 years. And there's a lot of exploration. A master's program in counseling is, I'm doing this because this is what I want to do professionally. Now, mind you, at the end of the 3 years, there are some people have taken different directions with their career, and I'll speak to rehabilitation because with the students in the rehabilitation specialization, I have some students that are placed in K-12 and providing mental health services for students in K-12. I have some students that are at the VA, or they are at the Department of Rehabilitation doing pure rehabilitation, or VR&E. And so there are options where you're going to place at the end, or when you do your internship, or where your career may want to go. But have a good idea of why you want that particular specialization, because it is a time commitment, and it is a very heavy lift for that introspection. And it's not something that you want to enter in lightly. And I think the students can speak to that, is if you do not have a passion for that particular specialization, it's going to be a very bad day each and every day, because it is quite a bit of work and introspection. But for the rehabilitation specialization, the one nice thing about that is you are clinically trained, so you can, we do have placements in K-12 for providing mental health or traditional VR&E. We actually do even have some students in Career Center doing VR&E, vocational readiness and employment. And we have it. So there are a couple of different routes you can go.
The one thing you will notice is there's a tiny bit of overlap with ours. So one, everyone shares the 45 units. Two, some of our rehab and career take the extra systems courses so that they have that added experience with working with families and things like that. Then you'll see a little overlap with rehab and career in terms of the career classes. And so some of the rehab students take some extra career. Sometimes career students end up also at the Department of Rehab. So there is some ability to kind of take those extra courses above and beyond so that you just have that experience with that population, but you'll notice an overlap. We have career students that also do a clinical aspect too, and rehab students that do a clinical aspect. That's probably the most common in terms of where they're placed. So I don't know if that helps. The other part of that is use our ambassadors. They're here to give you a little bit of, this is like Lupita could share being a career, being on the career track and why she chose that and why that works for her. And Susanna can share why she chose rehab and what that looks like and how that works for her. So take advantage of the ambassador appointments.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, Christine, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I lost connection for a little bit, so I don't know if this was covered or not, but I was wondering, I'm interested in the school-based counseling program, and I was wondering if PPS is part of it or that's a different credential. So like when I finish the program, will I also get PPS credential or that's not part of it?
So that if you're wanting to work in a school setting, you have to have your PPS. And so you would want to go school route because the school has the embedded PPS credential and you would be working in a school in a capacity of a school counselor holding that credential. If you're wanting to work with school affiliated mental health, that's different and doesn't require a credential. So we do have rehab, we have marriage, couple, family, and we have school, or we have career that are affiliated with school, but in different ways, if that makes sense. And so school mental health support looks different and school career support may look different. But if you're wanting to be in the capacity of a school counselor in this state, you have to have a PPS. And you have to have gone through the school program and you have to do your hours in 2 levels to meet that requirement.
Zach,
thank you so much.
Zach, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the PPS is a part of, like, when you graduate, you have that credential. Assuming you make it through the program, you have the PPS credential. So yes, that is embedded.
And you do apply for it. So know that our program, we have, oh man, I think all of you can speak to, we do a lot of we do a lot of communication and a lot of get-togethers. So we'll have our symposium every spring where we have the site fair and you're meeting other sites, but you're also getting, we'll add a job fair piece, and then we have kind of a conference style. So you'll be exposed to what does PPS mean? What does LPCC mean? What does LMFT mean? And how do I apply? And what is involved in that postgrad? So we have a lot of things like that the program does, where we get together and there's information and fun kind of embedded to help you with that. But yeah, that's the end goal for school counseling concentration, is they apply for their PPS as they're getting ready to graduate.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, Katie, you're next.
Hello again. I just had another question regarding the letters of rec. I know you kind of touched on it in the info session a little bit, but it's, and I guess I'm just seeking clarification. It sounds like on the Cal State application, you only have an option to put 2 letters of recommendation. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, so last year, I think something may have changed with the system. Last year, we switched, the entire CSUs changed to what they call a system called Quadrant 4. And so that allows for the application to be combined with anything specific any program is requesting. And so last year, it allowed for an upload of up to 4. And so we had this, hey, I recommend 3. Not because we're evaluating 3, but because you want to ensure that the people you put in there do complete their evaluation of you, if that makes sense. And so we only need the 2, and we want them to evaluate the evaluative piece, because that's our best picture of you. What do you look like in the work world? Why do you want to do this? How have other people observed you in the work world or the academic setting? Do you have the academic capacity or aptitude? And that paints a holistic picture. With that being said, you just want to make sure your recommenders follow up, because we have to have 2 of them as an aspect of our evaluation. So what I would say is put the 2 in there. If it's not letting you do more, just follow up with your 2. Be like, hey, have you done this? Check back in with the portal and make sure that they've completed it. You should be able to see, they should get a reminder, but you just want to make sure the 2 have done it. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
And while you at it, for letters of recommendations, do you need to waive your right?
I don't have a good answer for that. I think you could take that call however you feel it appropriate.
I don't know what right is waived. Yes.
So what it does when you enter your contact for your recommenders is it prompts an email to them, and then they have the format. So they don't need a letter written for you. They are emailed some questions that they have to answer. And one of the questions in there is, do you want to waive your right to see it? As your call. I have no idea how to answer that.
So it's up to you if you want to waive your right down. So it's up. So I guess that's how it is.
Yes,
Katie,
so we have 4 minutes. So we're gonna hit it. If Katie, if you still have your hand up, or Jennifer, and then we'll
Katie,
wrap up.
are you? Is that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer is actually have a question up, so that she's probably the last one.
Yeah, thanks. Glad I got it in. It's a quick question. I read in the chat that there's 20 people max in each class, and I'm assuming there's 20 people in each cohort because you mentioned there's about 80 people total. Is that right? I'm wondering if our cohort, if we'll be in the same classes together all the time.
So we accept every year 20 by specialization, give or take, because we have to fill our internship seats. And so we have accreditation and FTEs to work with. So long story short, take about 20 each specialization. So every year, 80 new people come in, about 80 graduate. What that means is that you're going to be with that cohort the entire time. 45 units are shared, so your entire first semester is going to be mixed. You may be with marriage and family people, you may be with rehab people, you may be with career school. It's totally mixed. And the majority of your experience is going to be mixed, with the exception of those 15 units. So those 15 units, you're going to be with school or career or rehab, taking those specific classes. Now, there are some times that other people take it. So maybe we have career taking a systems course or rehab taking a systems course, but for the most part, that's by specialization. So you get to know everyone. And there's lots of opportunities to get to know other cohorts because we do so much engagement with each other. It really is a climate of collaboration and partnering. We have mentorship programs. You may be involved in organizations, so you're getting to know other cohorts. We really want to ensure that you have built your professional base. You know what I mean? Because you're going to run into while Sacramento is a small town, our discipline is kind of small, even nationally. People tend to find or run into the same people. And so having those connections and knowing how to build that professional reputation is another aspect of our program.
Does that
Sweet.
answer your question?
Yes, and more. Thank you.
Okay, so our time is wrapping up, and thank you very much for coming. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to contact the ambassadors. We're here for you. Don't be shy. In our program, there's no shy in it. Just pick up. Ask. I was shy. I thought I was shy, but obviously, I don't know. Oh.
Dr. Marshall, while you popped in here, do you want to just say hi to everyone real quick? We were just wrapping up Q&A.
So excited to meet you. I'm Dr. Marshall, the fieldwork coordinator. I'm in the career specialization. I apologize for being late. I was working with some scholars on a presentation they're taking to Greece, so really excited to work with them. These are some of the things that you could also be involved in travel and research, and so excited to learn more about you in the future.
So thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good
Thank you,
seeing
Dr.
you
Marshall.
there, Dr. Marshall.
Hi, Chris. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and thank you all for coming tonight. If you have any questions, reach out to our ambassadors. They are here for you this entire application.